The crystalline dust sparkled under my headlamp as I carefully extracted another vein of thorium from the asteroid's core. My shell plate shifted with practiced efficiency as I navigated the narrow tunnel, each movement precise and calculated. We Brixie have been the galaxy's premier miners for over 10,000 cycles. Our compact size and natural armor making us perfectly suited for work that would be impossible for larger species. I am Moshi, Chief Mining Engineer of the Team Deep Core, and this particular asteroid has been our home for the past 3 months. The wealth contained within its rocky shell would be enough to fund an entire colony's expansion. Not just the radium, but veins of pure gold and other precious minerals that made my antennae tingle with excitement every time our sensors picked up a new deposit. Chief. The call came through my comm unit, startling me enough that my head plates instinctively clamped down. It was Kiri, our sensor operator. Something in her voice made my inner plates tighten. We've got multiple ships dropping out of FTL on the far side of the asteroid. I immediately began making my way back toward the main cavern. Mining vessels? I asked, though the tremor in Kiri's voice had already told me otherwise. No, sir. Military configurations, but they're not broadcasting any recognized faction IDs. 17, no, 23 ships and more appearing. By the time I reached our reinforced command center, the count had reached over 100 vessels. The holographic display showed them spreading out in a spherical formation around our asteroid. My second-in-command Brix was already running combat simulations. The results made my plates rattle. We were hopelessly outgunned. Pirates, Brix spat the word like it was toxic ore. Must have caught wind of our discovery. This many ships they've had time to organize, to prepare. I watched as the number of hostile vessels continued to climb. 200. 500, 1,000, more still coming. This wasn't just a pirate raid, it was an invasion fleet. Everything we'd worked for, everything we'd discovered, they intended to take it all. Send out an SOS, I ordered, my voice steadier than I felt. Full spectrum, all channels. Include our mineral survey data, maybe someone will consider us worth the risk. As Kiri began broadcasting our distress call, I gathered my crew of 32 Brixie miners. We were about to find out if our reinforced mining facility could double as a fortress. Pirates were notorious for their treatment of Brixie crews. They viewed us as perfect for forcing into slave labor in mines too dangerous for their own people. Seal all tunnels, I commanded. Vent the outer chambers. Set up barriers in the main shafts. We had drilling equipment that could be repurposed as weapons if it came to that, but against a fleet this size. A message crackled through our comm system. Attention mining vessel. This is Captain Draz of the Free Commerce Fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender your facility and all mineral rights. Compli, and you'll be permitted to leave with your personal belongings. Resist. The laugh that followed sent shivers down my plates. Resist, and we'll spend the next week hunting you through your own tunnels. Choose wisely. I looked at my crew, the finest miners in the sector, every one of them. We'd survived cave-ins, radiation leaks, and pressure blowouts together. But this was different. Our only hope lay in that SOS signal beaming out into the dark between the stars. I just prayed someone was listening. The first response to our SOS came from the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. My antennae perked up with hope as their insignia appeared on our comm display, but that hope died as quickly as a flame in vacuum. Mining Vessel Deep Core, this is Commander Nif. We've received your distress call, but our nearest patrol is 3 days out. Given the size of the hostile fleet you've reported, I must advise immediate surrender. The pirates' terms are unusually generous. I watched my crew's plates droop as I sent back our response. Commander, they'll take everything we've discovered. 3 months of work. The richest strike in decades. Better lost profits than lost lives. Chief Moshi. Nif out. The next response came from the Mothra Defense Legion barely 20 minutes later. The Mothra were warriors, proud and fierce. Surely they would regret to inform you that intervention would violate 3 separate peace treaties. We cannot risk. The mercenary guild at least was direct, not enough payment possible. End transmission. The responses kept coming, each one a fresh wound to our hopes. The Corporate Security Alliance risk assessment indicates unacceptable losses. The Free Traders Collective, conflict zone declared. All members advised to avoid your sector. Even the Salvage Union, who were usually crazy enough to dive into active combat zones, replied with a terse too hot. Good luck. Throughout it all, the pirate fleet continued to grow. Their ships had completely surrounded the asteroid now, a sphere of predators waiting to strike. Every few minutes, Captain Draz would remind us how much time remained in our grace period. 40 minutes remaining, little miners. Have you packed your bags yet? Curie hadn't left her station, continuously broadcasting our SOS and monitoring the responses. Her plates were pressed so tight against her body that she looked smaller than usual. "Chief," she called out, her voice barely a whisper. The Raxus Empire responded. My inner plates clenched. The Raxus were the closest thing our sector had to a superpower. Their military was legendary, their ships unmatched. If anyone could, the message was longer than the others, more formal, but it carried the same poison. After careful strategic analysis, the Raxus Empire has determined that committing forces to your defense would leave other vital systems vulnerable. We extend our sympathies and will register a formal protest regarding this violation of mining rights once the situation has resolved. Once the situation has resolved, Brix repeated bitterly. They mean once we're either slaves or dead. I gathered my crew around the central holdup. We'd used it countless times to plan our mining operations, to chart new tunnels and verify structural integrity. Now it displayed the positions of over 2,000 pirate vessels, their weapons all trained on our facility. 10 minutes remaining. Draz's voice held the smug satisfaction of a predator who knows their prey is cornered. "Chief," Curie suddenly called out, her antennae twitching. There's one more response coming in. It's not from any military or recognized organization. Just a single ship approaching at. That can't be right. A new voice cut through our comm system, drowning out even Draz's countdown. It was deep, impossibly so to our Brixie ears, and it carried an accent I'd never heard before. "Mining vessel Deep Core, this is independent mining ship Rockhound. Heard you folks were having some trouble. Hold tight, I'm about 4 minutes out." The pirates' reaction was immediate. "Unidentified vessel, this is a restricted zone. Clear out now or be destroyed with the rest of them." The response came back with what almost sounded like amusement. "Yeah, about that, no." The ship that dropped out of FTL looked wrong. That was the only word my mining-oriented brain could conjure as I stared at our sensor display. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, some reflecting our scans like polished mirror, others absorbing them completely. The shape was asymmetrical, with bulges and protrusions that seemed to follow no logical design philosophy. It looked less like a ship and more like an asteroid that had been hollowed out and strapped with engines. "What kind of ship is that?" Brix whispered, his plates rattling softly. "I've never seen anything like it." "Thermal signatures are all over the place," Curie reported, her claws dancing across her console. "Multiple hot spots that could be weapons, but they don't match any known configurations. And the shield readings, that can't be right. The interference patterns suggest layered fields, at least 3 deep." The pirates seemed equally confused. A new voice cut across the comms, higher pitched than Captain Draz but no less arrogant. "Unknown vessel, you are either brave or stupid. This is First Lieutenant Cirque. You have 10 seconds to retreat before we open fire. 1 ship against our fleet. What do you think you can possibly accomplish?" The human's response came with what I could now definitely identify as amusement. "Well, first I thought I'd give you folks a chance to leave peacefully. Professional courtesy and all that. These folks answered an SOS. That means they're miners in trouble. Where I come from, that means something." 5 seconds, Cirque sneered. "And second," the human continued as if he hadn't been interrupted. "I should probably mention that my cargo hold is currently empty. Got lots of room for salvage. Just in case anyone's interested in future career opportunities." Captain Draz's voice boomed back. "Enough of this. All ships target that arrogant O." And third, the human cut in, his voice suddenly harder than the thorium we'd been mining. "I'm not trapped out here with you. You're trapped out here with me." The next few moments were chaos. 100 pirate ships opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons converging on the lone human vessel. The combined firepower could have cracked our asteroid in half. My crew and I watched in horror, expecting to see our would-be savior vaporized. Instead, the human ship absorbed the barrage. Those strange shield patterns Curie had detected flared with colors I didn't have names for, each layer seeming to transmute the incoming energy into something else entirely. The human ship emerged completely unscathed. "Ha," the human's voice came back, now sounding genuinely disappointed. "I actually gave you a chance to leave. Guess we're doing this the hard way." A pause. "Fair warning though, I built this ship to mine plasma streams off solar flares. Your weapons are kind of underwhelming. That's when we saw the human ship's hull begin to shift, panels sliding away to reveal what had been hidden underneath. My engineering mind finally understood what I was seeing. Every illogical protrusion was a weapons system, disguised to look like mining equipment. Or perhaps it was mining equipment, repurposed into weapons. With humans, we would later learn, the distinction was often academic. Last chance, the human offered cheerfully. Anyone want to talk about those career opportunities in salvage? The pirate fleet's only response was to open fire again. Your call, the human sighed. Just remember, I tried to be nice about this. Have you ever watched a solar storm tear through a magnetic field? As a deep space miner, I've seen it twice. The raw energy, the chaos, the sheer unstoppable force of it, nothing in my experience compared to it. Nothing except what I witnessed next. The human ship moved like it was immune to physics. One moment it was at the heart of the pirate fleet. The next it had somehow reversed course without seeming to turn. Energy weapons sprouted from what I'd thought were sensor arrays, mining lasers meant for cutting through solid rock, carved through pirate shields like they weren't there. Tracking multiple hull breaches, Kiri reported, her voice steady now as she monitored the battle. 17 No-23 pirate ships disabled. They're not destroyed, just precisely crippled. She was right. The humans' attacks weren't aimed to destroy. Each shot disabled engines, weapons, or shields with surgical precision. It was like watching a master miner extract precious ore without disturbing the surrounding rock. All ships concentrate fire. Captain Draz was screaming now. Form up an attack pattern delta. Don't let it. The human ship released what looked like a cloud of mining drones. Hundreds of them, each no bigger than my fist. The pirate fleet's point defense systems targeted them immediately, but for every drone they destroyed, 3 more seemed to appear. Those are maintenance bots, Brix realized, his engineering mind catching what mine had missed. They're not attacking, they're attaching themselves to the pirate ship's hulls, and are they hacking their systems? Indeed, ship after ship in the pirate fleet suddenly went dark, their engines shutting down, weapons powering off. The human's voice came back over the comms, still sounding cheerful. Fun fact. When you spend enough time mining near stellar bodies, you get really good at radiation shielding. Your EMPs tickle. A particularly large pirate cruiser tried to ram the human vessel. Without seeming to fire a shot, the human ship simply reflected the cruiser's own momentum back at it, sending it tumbling end over end into the void. Was that Kiri's antennae were twitching rapidly? Did they just use their shield harmonics to, don't try to understand it, I advised. Just watch. The battle, if you could call such a one-sided display that, continued for another 20 minutes. The human ship danced through the pirate fleet like a mining probe through soft regolith, systematically disabling every vessel that didn't retreat. Those that did flee were allowed to go, though not before the humans' maintenance bots had apparently downloaded their navigational data. That's useful, the human commented casually. Got the coordinates of at least 7 pirate bases in this sector. I'll pass that along to the authorities once I'm done dealing with them myself. Finally, it was just Captain Draz's flagship left, floating powerless as the human ship approached it with almost predatory grace. Now then, the human's voice was still friendly, still casual, but there was an edge to it that made my plates tighten. About those career opportunities in salvage I mentioned earlier. I'm thinking you folks might be interested in a change of profession. Something legitimate, perhaps. I know several asteroid belts that could use experienced hands. The silence that followed was profound. I'll even throw in health insurance, the human added magnanimously. Captain Draz's response was colorful, but ultimately accepting of the human's terms. It's amazing how reasonable people can become when their only alternative is floating powerless in deep space. As the human ship began the process of corralling its newly acquired salvage crew, it finally turned its attention back to us. Mining vessel deep core area is now secure. Mind if I dock? Been a while since I've had a chance to talk shop with fellow miners. My crew looked at me, their plates still vibrating from the spectacle we'd witnessed. I keyed the comm. Our docking bay is yours, friend. Though I have so many questions. The human laughed, deep and genuine. Don't we all? First one's usually, why do you have so many weapons on a mining ship? Would you believe the answer is why not? My entire crew gathered in the docking bay, our plates clicking with nervous excitement as we waited for our first look at our savior. The airlock cycled, and I found myself unconsciously stepping backward as the inner door opened. I'd seen humans in data feeds before, but nothing had prepared me for the sheer scale of one in person. He had to duck to clear the doorway, his environment suit making him seem even larger. By Brixie standards, he was a giant, easily 40 units tall. His suit was as patched and varied as his ship, clearly modified far beyond its original specifications. What caught my attention most, though, was the tool belt around his waist. I recognized every piece of equipment on it. Standard mining gear, albeit scaled up to human size. The human disengaged his helmet, revealing a face covered in what I'd learned was called a beard and eyes that crinkled at the corners as he smiled down at us. "Name's Guy Redding," he said, carefully lowering himself to sit on a cargo crate so he'd be closer to our height. "Independent prospector out of the drift system. Hope you don't mind me dropping in. Had to shut down my mining operation when I picked up your SOS." "You stopped mining to come help us?" Brix asked, his antennae twitching in disbelief. Guy shrugged, a curiously human gesture. "Course I did. Miners help miners. That's just how it works where I come from." Speaking of which, he pulled out a handheld scanner that looked like it had been rebuilt at least a dozen times. "You folks hit thorium, right?" "Been trying to find a good thorium vein myself. Mind sharing some survey data?" I found myself laughing, the sound causing my plates to vibrate. Here was this being who just single-handedly defeated a pirate fleet, and he was most interested in comparing mineral survey readings. "I'm Moshi," I introduced myself, stepping forward. "Chief mining engineer. And yes, we found thorium. But first, your ship. How did you?" "Oh, the rockhound." Guy grinned, pulling up a holographic schematic from a projector on his wrist. "Built her myself. Started with an old asteroid hauler hull and just kept adding bits as I needed them. See, I mostly worked the inner system zones, the really hot regions close to stars. Needed good shields for that. Then I got interested in gas giant mining, so I had to boost the structural integrity. Then there was that time I was trying to mine a comet." And he went on, describing modifications and upgrades with the enthusiasm of a true engineer. Each addition had been made for mining purposes, but as he talked, I began to understand the human mindset. Every safety feature doubled as a weapon. Every tool could be used for defense. The ship's incredible maneuverability, needed for precision mining in asteroid fields. Those maintenance bots that had hacked the pirate ships. Originally designed to repair hull damage from micrometeorites. But the weapons, Kiri finally asked. Those weren't mining tools. Guy looked genuinely confused for a moment. "Well, no, those are just guns." "Why wouldn't I have guns? Space is dangerous." "You're not military then?" I asked carefully. That made him laugh. "Me? Nah, just a simple miner." Though he glanced at his wrist display. "I should probably call the authorities about all those disabled pirate ships up there. I got a buddy in the Space Force who's been trying to track these guys for months. He's gonna be mad he missed the fun." I shared a look with my crew. This was what humans considered fun. "One more question," I ventured. "You said you were trying to find thorium yourself. Why didn't you just take ours? You certainly could have." The smile vanished from Guy's face, replaced by something stern and serious. "Son," he said, and though I was probably older than him in standard years, something in his tone made me feel young. "There's 3 things you need to know about human miners. 1, we help our own. 2, we don't steal, not from anybody, but especially not from other miners. And 3, the smile came back, but harder this time, we're real good at dealing with folks who break rules 1 and 2. We moved our discussion to the mess hall, where Guy had to improvise a seat by stacking 3 reinforced cargo containers together. My crew brought out our best rations, though we apologized for not having any human-suitable food. Guy just smiled and pulled out something he called a protein bar from his suit pocket. "So let me get this straight," Brix said, his engineering mind still trying to process everything. "You built your ship to mine near solar coronas. Among other places, yeah." Guy took a bite of his bar, continuing to talk as he chewed, a distinctly human habit. "See, everybody focuses on the easy-to-reach minerals, but the really good stuff, that's always in the dangerous spots. Solar flares, gas giants, unstable asteroids, that's where you find the premium deposits. But the risk," Curie's antennae were practically tied in knots trying to understand, "is exactly why it's profitable," Guy finished. "High risk, high reward. Basic human economics. Besides, once you've built a ship tough enough to work those zones, everything else seems kind of tame in comparison." He gestured vaguely upward, presumably indicating the defeated pirate fleet. I had to ask, but why the weapons? Surely those weren't necessary for mining. Guy's expression did something complicated then. You know what the Second Amendment is? When we shook our heads, he continued, it's this really important human right. The right to bear arms. Basically says that being able to defend yourself is a fundamental freedom. So when I was building the rockhound, I figured, why not? I've got the power systems to support weapons, got the space to mount them, and space is a big, sometimes unfriendly place. Just seemed logical. Logical, I repeated, trying to wrap my mind around human reasoning. You added military-grade weapons to a mining vessel because you could. Well, yeah. Guy scratched his beard. Think about it. If you're building a ship that can survive diving into a star's corona to mine heavy elements, adding some guns is actually pretty simple in comparison. The hard part was already done. The shields, the power systems, the structural integrity. The weapons were just extras. Like adding a cup holder to your mining suit. Several of my crew looked down at their mining suits, which did indeed have liquid container holders built in. A few plates clicked thoughtfully. But what about the maintenance bots? Curie asked. The ones that hacked the pirate ships? Oh, those? Guy brightened. Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they? Built them after I nearly lost the ship to a software glitch near Jupiter. Figured if they could fix my systems on the fly, they might as well be able to handle any system they encounter. You know, in case I ever needed to help another ship in distress. He paused. Though I'll admit, I didn't exactly expect them to end up hacking pirate vessels. That was a nice bonus. And the shield harmonics. Bricks couldn't help himself. The way you reflected that cruiser's momentum. Funny story about that, Guy grinned. Was trying to mine this comet, right? But comets are mostly ice and really fragile. Needed a way to deflect debris without breaking up the comet itself. Took a while to get the harmonics right, but once I did, he shrugged. Turns out the same principles work pretty well against ships too. Physics is physics. I found myself shaking my head in amazement. You created one of the most formidable ships I've ever seen by accident. Because you wanted to mine in dangerous places. Well, I wouldn't say by accident, Guy corrected. Everything on the rockhound has a purpose. Just turns out that equipment good enough for extreme mining is also pretty good at other things. Like dealing with pirates who think they can prey on honest miners. He leaned forward, suddenly serious again. That's the thing about humans. Especially human miners. We don't believe in doing things halfway. If you're going to build a ship, build it to handle anything. If you're going to add weapons, add good ones. And if you hear another miner in trouble, his eyes met mine. You drop everything and help, no questions asked. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Guy helped us repair the minor damage our facility had sustained during the siege, his maintenance bots proving just as skilled at fixing our equipment as they had been at disabling pirate ships. He worked alongside us as if the difference in our sizes meant nothing, his massive hands surprisingly gentle with our delicate machinery. Meanwhile, his friend in the Space Force arrived with a small fleet to collect the disabled pirate vessels. I couldn't help but notice how the military ships gave the rockhound a wide berth, despite it being a civilian vessel. Or perhaps because of it, I was starting to understand that humans didn't think about such distinctions the same way other species did. Got the coordinates of their bases from my bots, Guy told the Space Force commander, a human female who seemed completely unsurprised to find her civilian friend had single-handedly defeated a pirate fleet. Figured you might want to pay them a visit. Oh, and most of the crews have already agreed to switch to legitimate salvage work. Funny how persuasive a few hours floating powerless in space can be. Only you, Guy, the commander sighed, but I detected admiration in her tone. Only you would turn a pirate fleet into a job recruitment opportunity. Before he left, Guy insisted on trading survey data and contact information with us. Look, he said, showing me how to reach him on any standard comm system. Space is big, and there aren't enough of us miners looking out for each other. If you ever run into trouble again, call. Doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of the richest strike of my career, miners help miners. That's just how it works. As we watched the rockhound prepare to depart, its patchwork hull, somehow looking more impressive now that we understood its true capabilities, Bricks approached me with a datapad. Chief, he said, his antennae twitching with excitement. I've been reviewing our equipment manifests and doing some calculations, with a few modifications to our drilling lasers, and maybe some upgrades to our shields. You want to add weapons to our mining ships. I finished for him, remembering Guy's casual why not philosophy. Brix's plate shifted nervously. Well, we've already got the power systems for the drills, and our shields are rated for deep space operations. It wouldn't take much to draw up the plans, I interrupted. And see if you can figure out how to modify our maintenance drones while you're at it. For routine system repairs, of course. Of course, Brix agreed, his plates clicking happily as he hurried off. I watched through our facility's viewport as the rockhound disappeared into FTL, heading off to whatever impossibly dangerous mining operation Guy had postponed to help us. The Space Force ships followed soon after, herding their newly acquired pirate prisoners turned salvage workers. Kiri approached me as I continued to stare into space. Think we'll see him again? Probably, I said, remembering the eager way Guy had studied our Thuradium survey data. There's a lot of dangerous places to mine out there after all, and apparently that's where you find the best deposits. Is that why you approved Brix's weapons proposal so quickly? She asked, her tone knowing. I turned to face my crew, all of them watching me expectantly. No, I said firmly. I approved it because today I learned something important about being a miner. It's not just about finding the best deposits or having the right equipment. It's about being ready to help when another miner calls. And if we're going to do that, why not be properly equipped for it? My entire crew finished with me, their plates clicking in unified amusement. I nodded, already thinking about the modifications we'd make to our ships and equipment. The galaxy might not understand humans and their Deathworlder logic, but we Brixie miners. We were starting to get the idea. After all, space is dangerous, mining is dangerous, and sometimes the right thing to do is also the dangerous thing. Why not be prepared for it? Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.